It's a Victory Monday here on Philadelphia Eagles Now, and coming up, we have a loaded show on the rundown. We have an unfortunate Nakobe Dean injury update. Who will the Eagles play next Sunday in the divisional round at Lincoln Financial Field? And I have some more takeaways from that Packers win. Before we get into all of that, thank you to all of the real ones for supporting everything that we do here on Eagles Now. My goal since training camp, get this channel to 100,000 subscribers so that we can get that silver plaque from YouTube. Yesterday was a huge step in that direction. We picked up more than 1,000 new subscribers during our watch party. We got to 98K by kickoff, which was my goal last week. And then yesterday, able to get to 99K. That means that we are less than 1,000 people away from 100,000 subscribers. We're going to continue to cover this football team during this playoff run, in-season, off-season content, always bringing you heaters. So hit that sub button, join the movement, and let's talk some Eagles right now. And we start with this. Yesterday in the first half of that Eagles victory over the Green Bay Packers, we saw Nakobe Dean shoot that play, tackle Tucker Kraft. It was a really good instinctual play for him, registering a TFL, but then he tries to get up, he goes down, suffers that injury, needed help off the field, was carted off, and then Philadelphia immediately ruled him out of that ball game. And the initial indications, it's not a good injury for the breakout linebacker for Philadelphia. Very concerned coming out of that game, just evidenced by this, him getting helped off the field. And then John Clark, NBC Sports Philadelphia, tweeting this picture out after the game. Nakobe Dean in a really bulky brace with that left knee, and then on crutches as well in the tunnel as he left Lincoln Financial Field. And so I was preparing for the thought that Nakobe Dean was going to be lost for the rest of the year. We just weren't sure what that injury was then. We know now. Ian Rappaport, NFL Network, with this report here that Eagles linebacker Nakobe Dean, at the tail end of a breakout year, suffered a torn patellar tendon in his knee. He is out for the playoffs. Tough blow for Philadelphia and for Nakobe Dean, who has a long road to recovery. He'll likely miss the start of next year. So obviously, as you look ahead for Philadelphia, Zach Bond is going to be a free agent. You did draft Jeremiah Trotter Jr. You signed Oren Burks, a career special teamer, to a one-year contract. Off-ball linebacker becomes a really big need for the Eagles, and Dean could miss some time at the start of next year. Unfortunate for him, given he finally broke out, looked to be the linebacker who was the best off-ball linebacker when he was at Georgia, winning national championships, playing terrific football, smart instinctual player as that engineering major. Last year suffered a couple of foot injuries. Now he's dealing with that knee injury. Everybody had knocked him for being a little bit small, but he was a fun player to root for this year because he played so much bigger than his size, but now the injuries become a concern for the former third-round pick. I can't emphasize enough how big of an injury this is to this Philadelphia Eagles defense, with Nakobe Dean being out for the rest of the playoffs with this torn patellar tendon. Dean and Zach Bond were the anchors of this Eagles defense, especially at that second level, and what they brought to Vic Fangio's unit, an instinctual feel for the game that allowed them to make plays all over the yard, and they were always around the ball against the run and against the pass. And this sucks for Nakobe Dean because he finally had that breakout year. He played awesome football, and he solidified himself as one of the top off-ball linebackers in the game. And the drop-off from Dean to Oren Burks is a huge one. And it's going to play a huge role throughout the rest of the playoffs for the Eagles, and hopefully they continue to win these games, because you can't replace 128 tackles, 80 of them of the solo variety, 9 TFLs in the backfield for Nakobe Dean this year, in addition to 6 quarterback hits. And when Dre Greenlaw in the Super Bowl for the 49ers suffered that torn Achilles, Oren Burks replaced him. He was targeted 9 times, gave up 9 catches in that game, and after that Greenlaw injury, that's when the Chiefs' offense, anemic up to that point, really caught fire. And so now, whoever the Eagles play in the divisional round, they will be targeting Oren Burks in coverage. And the Eagles lose a great player against the run as well. Dean in 2024, as far as the Pro Football Focus grades go, overall grade of 74.5, a pass rush grade of 82.1, really utilized a lot as a blitzer, a run defense grade of 80.4, and a coverage grade of 59.6. He also added 14 pressures. So we will now see more of Oren Burks, a 7-year player and a career special teamer, played okay but missed some tackles in that game against Green Bay, had that huge hit to start the game on the opening kickoff, forcing that fumble. He's going to get a bulk of the snaps, and Vic Fangio is going to rely on him because of his veteran presence. But then the backup is Jeremiah Trotter Jr., who's a rookie, and so you're going to see a very inexperienced player playing in the pressure cooker of the NFL playoffs in year one. I like Trotter as a prospect. I thought he did some good things a couple of weeks ago. He, too, is instinctual. I think that's so important at the linebacker spot. You don't need to be twitched up, huge, and fast. If you can read and diagnose plays, that's what Nakobe Dean, Zach Bond do so well. That's what Trotter can do so well as well, but he's an inexperienced player, and it's going to be up to Vic Fangio to find solutions for this Eagles defensive unit. Back to some positivity, though. It sucks to see Nakobe Dean out. You know what's awesome? Seeing a victory Monday, especially after a playoff victory. So if you're enjoying another Eagles victory Monday here in the Big Dance, I want you to hit that thumbs up icon and like the video right now. Only beginning to take flight on today's Monday edition of the show. Still to come, who will the Eagles play on Sunday at the Link in the divisional round? And I have some more takeaways from that Packers win, and I'm going to explain why I'm not concerned about that Jalen Hurts performance from yesterday. Eagles playoff tickets will go on sale this week for this divisional round tilt. Philadelphia going to play the winner of the Rams-Vikings game, which is being played in Glendale, Arizona because of the LA wildfires tonight on Monday night. And if you want to go to that game, be a part of a wonderful Eagles playoff atmosphere, look no further than our friends and our partners at Game Time. You get the best seats at the lowest price guaranteed. Prices drop as the event gets closer. Flash deals, zone deals, and you get the lowest price guaranteed, or Game Time will credit you up to 110% of the difference. Thanks to Game Time Picks, you don't have to go through thousands of tickets. Curation makes it easier to find the best seats at the lowest price guaranteed to sporting events, but also concerts, comedy shows, theater events, and a whole lot more. My buddy Matthew Peterson, it was his birthday the other day. He had floor seats to see Shane Gillis in Dallas. He said it was a great show. So if you want to go to an event like that, pop up the Game Time app. You can also see the view from your seat before you buy, so you know exactly what to expect when you arrive. You see that aerial view of Lincoln Financial Field, so you can basically pick which section, which level, and which yard line you want to sit at. So download the Game Time app, create an account, use the code CHATSPORTS, CHATSPORTS, for $20 off. Terms apply, first purchase only. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Last minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed. What time is it? Game time. All right, looking ahead to the divisional round after the Eagles took down the Green Bay Packers in that ugly victory, but survive in advance was the motto, and the Eagles made that a reality. Birds are going to play the winner of Vikings-Rams on Sunday in the divisional round. Kickoff is already set, 3 o'clock Eastern at Lincoln Financial Field in South Philadelphia. I guess some good news coming out of that Sunday night game between the Commanders and the Buccaneers is that the Eagles don't have to play the Bucs. If the Bucs would have beaten Washington, the Eagles would have hosted Tampa Bay at the Link in the divisional round for the right to make it to the NFC Championship game. And as we know, Todd Bowles has Jalen Hurts' number and has Nick Sirianni's number. The Buccaneers are a very difficult matchup for this Philadelphia Eagles offense and Jalen Hurts, and it's a pretty talented team, and Baker Mayfield has played at a borderline top 10 level since the midway point of 2023. I actually think the Eagles get a favorable matchup taking on the winner of Rams-Vikings. Already beat the Rams. I think they match up favorably against Minnesota, but how about the Commanders registering their first playoff win since 2005, able to come back and beat the Buccaneers on the road with a rookie quarterback, 23-20. Zane Gonzalez, there was a camera shot. He's the Commanders kicker, and they panned to him as he was walking onto the field to attempt that game winner, taking his helmet off and putting it on like 3 or 4 different times, messing with his hair. He looked extremely nervous, and then he doinked it in to win the game as time expired. I'll say this. I know that we have to focus on the now, but the Washington Commanders are going to be a threat inside the NFC East and in the NFC for a long time because Jaden Daniels is legit. For a rookie quarterback to go on the road, take down a Todd Bowles-led defense, that Buccaneers offense, a Buccaneers offense where Baker Mayfield was playing well. Mike Evans was back healthy. Good offensive line. Good running game. That's a really impressive win for Daniels in Washington. Their first playoff victory in 19 years. And so with the emergence of the Commanders, with the Giants maybe getting a franchise quarterback in the draft, albeit in a weak quarterback class, with the Cowboys being the rivals that they are to Philadelphia, some big-time juice for the future of the NFC East. As for who the Commanders will play, they advance to take on the number 1 seeded Detroit Lions. That game will take place in Detroit, 8 p.m. Eastern on Saturday. Detroit coming off that bye after getting that number 1 seed and home field advantage because they took down the Vikings in Week 18 in that win-or-go home game for the divisional crown and the number 1 seed in the final week of the regular season. If the Eagles play the Rams, we know what we can expect, right? The Rams started the season slow, but in Week 12, when the Eagles took them down by a final score of 37-20, the Rams were starting to play some pretty good football. But Philadelphia thoroughly dominated the Rams in that game, winning by 17 points. It was honestly even a bigger win than that because the Rams added a garbage time touchdown. Saquon Barkley had the best game of his career, not just his Eagles career, more than 300 all-purpose yards, 26 carries, 255 yards, 2 touchdowns, and both of them went for 70-plus yards. That Rams defense, a lot of good young players, they weren't ready for Saquon that night in prime time at SoFi Stadium. A.J. Brown also had a really solid game, 6 catches for 109 yards. He had to perform very well and be the go-to threat in the pass game because Devontae Smith did not play in that ball game due to a hamstring injury. The Eagles defense really good. They forced a fumble on the opening drive of the game, and then throughout the rest of the game, they held the Rams to 0 of 8 on the third downs. Eagles defense only giving up 290 yards as well during that ball game. Philadelphia's offense averaging 7.1 yards per play. The Rams, 4.8 yards per play. The Eagles, led by that historic game for Saquon Barkley, ran for 7 yards per pop. Eagles able to register 5 sacks of Matthew Stafford. Brandon Graham had a great game in that ball game. And then he suffered that torn triceps injury. And the lasting image from that Eagles victory as Eagles fans took over the joint just outside of L.A., Saquon Barkley running wild, Saquon Barkley running away from that Rams defense. In scouting the Minnesota Vikings, that the Eagles have to host Minnesota. Vikings are a really good, talented, deep, well-rounded, well-coached team. They went 14-3, and they're the 5 seed because they played in that stacked NFC North. Lost that game against the Lions. Lions got home field advantage. Inside that division, Green Bay Packers were an 11-win, 12-win ball club. And then the Chicago Bears were a feisty team. They took down the Packers in the final week of the season. And so to go 14-3, it's impressive regardless. Same record as the Eagles. To do it in that division, also pretty impressive. Sam Darnold looked to be a bust. And then Kevin O'Connell brought the best out of him. He put together a career year, although in Week 18 against Detroit, he looked like the Sam Darnold from previous years. Kevin O'Connell, one of the top offensive minds in football. He's a top 5 to 10 head coach in the National Football League. Brian Flores, right up there with Steve Spagnuolo, as one of the top, most elite defensive coordinators in the game. And then the Vikings have a really good wide receiver duo. Justin Jefferson, in my eyes, the best receiver in the game. Jordan Addison, an awesome number 2. TJ Hawkinson, a really good tight end. Aaron Jones, a really good running back. And their offensive line is really good. And so I think the Rams are the more beatable team. The Vikings pose a larger threat. But we also know that Minnesota has a dubious history playing in Philadelphia. Think back to that NFC Championship game back in 2022. Or 2017, excuse me. Who would you rather play? MIN for the Vikings, LAR for the Los Angeles Rams. Case Keenum stood no chance in taking down Nick Foles back in that 2017 NFC title game. All right, let's move forward here. Just a couple of takeaways that I have from that Eagles win yesterday on top of what I had already talked about in the postgame show. This is the real reason that Jalen Hurts struggled against the Green Bay Packers. And of course, he didn't have his best day. He did still finish 13 of 21, threw for 131 yards, 2 touchdowns, no picks, no turnovers, had a passer rating of 111.4, and he outplayed Jordan Love. And we know that at times Jalen Hurts can hold on to the ball too long, be hesitant in pulling the trigger. He can struggle to see the field. He can bail out of the pocket early, especially to the right. And yes, Hurts was a little bit rusty after having not played in a month due to a concussion. But the issue I had on Sunday with this Eagles offense was not Hurts. It was the elementary school-like passing concepts. Nobody got open for Hurts. Offensive line did a great job in pass protection, but the passing game plan was super conservative, and Hurts made the best of it. Now, why was the game plan so conservative? I think that we didn't see a lot of deep shots, no aggressive calls, because Nick Sirianni and Kellen Moore understood Hurts hadn't played in a month, and he was coming off a concussion. They wanted to err on the side of caution. And here's what I think happens next week. I think the Eagles, with Hurts shaking off some of those cobwebs, open up the playbook, and they end up being a multiple offense, and they catch the opposing defense off guard, and we see a multifaceted offensive attack, and that's when this Eagles offense is at their best, with the best offensive line in football, with the best running back in football, with 2 great wide receivers, and a great tight end in Dallas Goedert. I think Jalen Hurts and this Eagles offense are going to make those adjustments, make those improvements, and we're going to see them really humming in the divisional round. As for Vic Fangio, I want to write a love letter to you, and I just want to say I love you, and so does the entire city of Philadelphia. The Eagles defense won that game in the wild card round against the Green Bay Packers. And the Eagles defensive numbers, so dominant, and they were able to shine. The Eagles defense gave up 10 points on 11 drives. They forced 3 turnovers, all coming from Jordan Love interceptions. They got that huge 4th down stop to help ice the game. They had a hold in the red zone, which led to a missed Green Bay Packers field goal. And this Eagles defensive performance came when the Eagles offense sputtered. And they had a stretch of picking up 9 yards on a total of 5 drives. This is such a well-coached unit led by Vic Fangio, who has hired so many great assistants. And this is coming after a disaster class of a 2023 season for this Eagles defensive unit. And how about Nolan Smith? What a game he had yesterday. I'm not sure if the Eagles win that ball game without Nolan Smith. 8 tackles, 2 sacks, 3 quarterback hits, 2 TFLs, and he got the game ball from Nick Sirianni because of his relentless motor and how he plays the game. Eagles defense, that was awesome. And in January and in February, defense wins championships. We saw that yesterday. We are almost to 100K subs. Be sure to hit that sub button. Just more than 200 people away. Let's get there by kickoff, and if that happens, we're going to have a celebration right here on the show.